DC Comics wants you to believe their Silver Age was a flawless era of iconic gods and legendary story arcs, but hidden deep in the vault are the mistakes. Characters so structurally broken, editorially embarrassing, or just flat-out bizarre that DC has spent decades trying to pretend they never existed. Some were handed their own flagship titles, others were forced onto the Justice League roster. But when modern continuity took over, these heroes weren't just sidelined, they were aggressively buried. But which Silver Age creations did DC leave behind the most? Here are 10 Silver Age characters DC wants you to forget. At number 10 is Snapper Carr. Lucas Snapper Carr debuted in The Brave and the Bold, issue 28 in 1960, created by Gardner Fox and Mike Sekowsky, instantly installed as the Justice League's official mascot from issue 1. His entire identity was vibes. No powers, no tactical function, just a finger-snapping beatnik teenager loitering while Superman and Batman handled real threats. DC still ran him through dozens of Justice League issues, as if proximity to gods made him their peer. Then Denny O'Neil had Snapper betray the entire team to the Joker in issue 77, an editorial mercy killing dressed as drama. The post-crisis Justice League needed gods with existential stakes, not a powerless mascot who solved nothing. DC returned him in the 1990s with grafted-on teleportation powers. Pure editorial guilt, then shelved him permanently. No film, no reboot, just a footnote DC would rather forget. At number 9 is Space Ranger. Rick Star debuted in Showcase issue 15 in 1958, created by Edmund Hamilton, Gardner Fox, and Bob Brown, positioned as DC's pulp sci-fi answer to the space race. A 22nd century space cop running alongside Adam Strange as a recurring backup feature across multiple titles. His gimmick was Krill, a shape-shifting alien companion who could transform into any animal or object on command, plus a personal spacecraft and full ray gun arsenal. Pure Buck Rogers surrogate logic for the Sputnik era. DC treated him as a legitimate fixture throughout the late 1950s and early 1960s, until the Bronze Age collapsed the anthology backup format and street-level drama replaced Rocket Age adventure. Then, the 1985 continuity reboot finished the job, obliterating the publisher's cohesive 22nd century timeline and turning Space Ranger into a continuity orphan with no era left to inhabit. He surfaced once in the 2013 series Threshold as background furniture, no solo stories since, just a museum piece from a universe DC quietly demolished. At number 8 is the Inferior 5. Debuting in Showcase issue 62 in 1966, created by E. Nelson Bridwell and Joe Orlando, they were catastrophically incompetent parody children of DC's own A-list icons. Merry Man, a weakling in a jester suit, Awkward Man, an Aquaman Superman hybrid who fumbled everything, White Feather and Archer terrified of combat, Blimp flying by flatulence, Dumb Bunny possessing super strength and nothing else upstairs. DC treated this seriously enough to run them through a 10-issue ongoing series from 1967 to 1968, complete with actual DCU crossovers involving real franchise characters. That publishing commitment makes what happened next even sharper. The post-crisis era arrived demanding emotional weight and genuine moral stakes, and a team whose entire identity is comedic failure became a tonal weapon pointed directly at DC's brand. Every scene they enter contaminates the dignity of the icons they parody. Jeff Lemire and Keith Giffen attempted a revival miniseries in 2019. It received minimal marketing and was quietly allowed to die. No adaptation, no reboot, pure vault. If you think erasing a character because they made Superman look ridiculous is bad, just wait until we enter the 30th century. The next 4 entries feature heroes whose powers range from logically broken to absolute biological nightmares. At number 7 is Matter Eater Lad. Tenzil Kem debuted in Adventure Comics issue 303 in 1962, created by Jerry Siegel and John Fort. Cemented as a full recurring member of the Legion of Superheroes, DC's premier 30th century super team tied directly to Superman's legacy. His power, he can eat anything in the universe at super speed, any matter. Indestructible alloys, cosmic weapons, energy constructs. His planet Bismol evolved digestive systems capable of consuming every known substance. The writers fully committed to the bit without a hint of irony. He appeared across hundreds of Legion stories with the same gravity as Cosmic Boy or Saturn Girl, and in Superboy and the Legion issue 251, he ate the Miracle Machine, a reality rewriting device, to save the universe, driving himself insane. That moment exposes the character's fatal flaw. A character who can consume anything is an instant storybreaker, either irrelevant or universe-endingly broken. DC's solution in the 1980s was making him a senator. Bendis' 2019 reboot kept him on the roster and gave him nothing to do. At number 6 is Bouncing Boy. Chuck Tane debuted in Action Comics issue 276 in 1961, created by Jerry Siegel and Jim Mooney after accidentally drinking a superplastic fluid he mistook for soda, giving him the ability to inflate into a giant, invulnerable bouncing sphere and ricochet off enemies at high velocity. He is, functionally, a sentient rubber ball. Editorial viewed him as a legitimate heavyweight, running him through active Legion of Superheroes membership for over a decade alongside Superboy. And his marriage to founding-era Legionnaire duo Damsel was a major story event. Then the Bronze Age arrived, demanding gothic consequence and cosmic tragedy, and the tonal clash became impossible to ignore. You cannot write a Legion member sacrificing everything against galactic extinction and then cut to Chuck Tane inflating himself off a space cruiser. His presence destroys the dramatic register of every scene he enters. The 2006 animated series could handle him. Despite this, modern writers still had to work around his bouncing mechanics across the 1994, 2004, and 2019 print reboots. At number 5 is Colossal Boy. Jim Allen debuted in Action Comics issue 267 in 1960, created by Jerry Siegel and Jim Mooney, after exposure to a mysterious Martian meteorite granted him the ability to grow to giant size at will. With the radiation source, biological mechanism, and power limits never coherently explained even by Silver Age standards, he held a respected spot on the roster, sustaining his core membership for over 20 years across major storylines and mission leadership roles. Eventually, the cracks started to show. Giant Man, Apache Chief, and dozens of other size changers had colonized the archetype so completely that Colossal Boy had no identity left to distinguish him. While subsequent reboots in 1994, 2004, and 2019 kept him on the roster, his unique identity was completely lost among a sea of generic size changers. At number 4 is Comet the Superhorse. Leo Dorfman and Jim Mooney fully established his wild mythology in 1962, though a nameless version debuted earlier in Adventure Comics issue 293. Comet instantly tied into the Superman family. His origin is pure Silver Age excess. A Greek centaur named Byron was accidentally transformed into a horse by the sorceress Circe. She granted him immortality, super speed, flight, and super strength, leaving him to drift through space. He eventually found his way to Earth and became Supergirl's pet. DC played this absolutely straight across dozens of stories in the 1960s. But the Bronze Age demanded realism, and a telepathic magical horse who occasionally transformed into a human man to romance his teenage owner became a massive tonal disaster. He was not just quietly retired after Crisis. DC actually rebooted him in 1997 as a bizarre shape-shifting earthly angel of love, which they now ignore. But if you thought a Superhorse romance was strange, our final 3 entries are built on concepts so fundamentally unworkable that a modern, serious DC universe had no choice but to bury them completely. At number 3 is Dial H for Hero. Robbie Reed debuted in House of Mystery, issue 156 in 1966, created by Dave Wood and Jim Mooney, headlining one of DC's flagship anthology titles. Not a backup strip, not filler. His gimmick? An alien H-dial that transformed him into a completely random new superhero every time he spelled H-E-R-O. Different powers, different costume, different name, no pattern, no ceiling. He once dialed the letters backward and became a supervillain against his will. The publisher pushed this as a flagship title for over 3 years, even letting readers submit hero designs that appeared in print. The gimmick had a built-in narrative dead end, a hero who randomizes his entire identity. Every issue has no character development, no villain relationships, and no emotional continuity. The H-dial is an infinite power generator dressed as a protagonist. DC has rebooted the concept multiple times and cannot fix it. Each revival quietly collapses. Robbie Reed is a footnote in every version. At number 2 is Color Kid. Uluvok debuted in Adventure Comics issue 342 in 1966, created by Edmund Hamilton and a 14-year-old Jim Shooter, struck by a beam of multicolored light from another dimension that gave him the power to change the color of any object. That is the complete power set. He changes colors. Within Silver Age logic, this was genuinely tactical. He once turned green kryptonite blue, rendering it inert and neutralizing Superman's greatest weakness entirely. DC gave him sustained Substitute Legion appearances throughout the 1960s and 1970s on the strength of that one trick. However, the massive continuity sweeps of 1985 scrapped the elaborate rainbow kryptonite taxonomy, green, red, gold, white, blue, as absurd overcomplication. When that system vanished, Color Kid lost his only narrative purpose. He became a character who changes colors for no reason anyone can use. DC has never attempted a revival. He exists as a wiki entry. And finally, at number 1 is Lori Lemaris. She debuted in Superman issue 129 in 1959, created by Bill Finger and Wayne Boring as a recurring supporting character tied directly to Superman's mythos. She was a mermaid from Tritonus, a hidden city within Atlantis, marking one of the strangest Silver Age attempts to give Clark Kent a romantic life outside Lois Lane. Editorial pushed her as a legitimate romantic rival for a time, using her in multiple Superman stories as part of his wider supporting cast. The underlying concept, however, presented a massive hurdle. A long-term romantic interest who lives entirely underwater, communicates through telepathy, and belongs to a hidden Atlantean society is incredibly hard to fit into a modern Superman line built around public, earthbound stakes. She became much less useful as DC streamlined Superman's world and moved away from whimsical ideas. Today, she survives mostly as a bizarre, widely forgotten continuity curiosity. These Silver Age characters deserve more recognition. Comment your favorite forgotten character, press the subscribe button now, and turn on notifications for regular updates.